Let's talk about ADHD and sex. So trigger warning for this one, we're going to talk about sexual violence. There has been research to clearly demonstrate that there are more victims and perpetrators of sexual violence and domestic abuse within the ADHD community. Also, many of us have experienced narcissistic abuse. This does tend to be higher rates of us for many reasons that I'll go into on another video. And you can also read my 21 reasons why for that in my book ADHD Remastered. The link is in the bio. As a survivor of sexual violence myself, I can only speak to my experience of how sexual violence affected me as a woman and my own sexuality, and how I regained power and control and leaned back into enjoying sex again after surviving something so horrific. I was raped when I was 19, and then I was raped again about a year later. Both of them were people that I knew, which was quite shocking. Research suggests that most people that are abused in this way, the perpetrator is somebody that they know most of the time. Before I was ever sexually violated, I was a very sexual person. I always had a lot of sexual energy. Sexuality is fun, and I think that sexual energy is creative energy, and I really learned that when I took years out to be celibate. After I had been raped for the first time, I went from being someone who wore clothes that I considered sexy, walking as if I knew I was sexy, being, impeccably groomed, be confident around men, to somebody who started to wear baggy clothes, wearing very little makeup, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody's choice of wearing makeup or not. I think that is your choice. Me personally, I love makeup. I've always loved makeup and I've loved experimenting, but the reason why wearing less makeup and wearing baggy clothes, etc., was not good for me is because that's not who I am. I started doing it as a way to detract attention from myself because I didn't feel safe with people sexualizing me and looking at me anymore. Then I went through a phase, which is very common for people who have been sexually abused, where I went on a bit of a rampage, having casual sex with people. This is very common, and it's actually nothing to be ashamed of. I just wish that there was more support for people to understand that it is nothing to be ashamed of, and to learn how to navigate it in a safe way. I navigated this in a really safe way. I was very honest. I had some beautiful relationships with people, and I learned how to feel safe, not just in my body, but around men again, which was extremely beneficial for me. But I do realise the more people I have met over the years who have experienced sexual violence have not maybe navigated it in the same way, or maybe have not had the confidence to go out there and to trust a man enough to even have sex with them again. I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like if I just left this as a snapshot of like, oh, I was raped and then I wore baggy clothes and shit for a while and then I went out and just had loads of sex and it was great, I would be doing a disservice to my former self, and it wouldn't be completely honest. There have been different layers of my journey from that recovery, and part of that recovery for me was not just learning how to trust a man physically not to hurt me and allowing them into my bed or my space, but also trusting someone emotionally. I cannot express how devastating it is to have something like that done by somebody that you know and once trusted. It really plays havoc with your ability to trust other people. And it took me decades to learn how to fully let someone in again after that. And for a long time, I think I fooled everybody so well into believing that I was just this like larger than life person who was just a bit, like Samantha from Sex and the City. I just go and do what I want and I'm empowered and I'm having fun and all this stuff. I think I convinced them all so well that I almost convinced myself, and like for a while that was just kind of like tied up in like this mask of who I was. And I did that, and I happily promoted that mask for a long time because it helped me to feel safe. Because if I was going to allow someone in emotionally, then it meant that I would have to be vulnerable. There would be a chance that they might do that to me again. And of course, I was trying to keep myself safe from that ever happening again. But the thing is, I ended up really missing out a lot. So I would see people settling down, starting families, etc., etc. Meanwhile, I just couldn't get off the carousel of like flitting from one relationship to another, and then when it started to get serious, running away. I spent a lot of my 20s doing that, and I think that in some cases there were very real and realistic reasons as to why I was not compatible with the person that I was with. But there were a few cases where I had some really awesome men, and I just found a reason to run. I just found a reason, and I was like, the self-sabotaging to the max. Again, I still have great relationships with those people, and they were fully consensual, loving adult relationships, and I don't regret any of them. And at the time, I would have fully told you that, you know, no, this is the reason that I'm leaving this relationship, or this is the reason that I'm single, or this is the reason that, you know. And I had a lot of intellectual understanding of what had happened to me as a young woman. I did, but I didn't have the awareness, and the awareness takes time, and sometimes we can only understand things backwards. So I didn't understand how my sexual trauma had affected my relationships until I got older and actually really started to let people in. And that was quite scary. And before I could allow somebody in again, I had to take some time on my own. And taking time really out on my own to really assess my life, where I'm at, what I want. I mean, I'd gone through so many years of my life just kind of like distracted constantly. I'd never asked myself what I want. That's something that I see that is painfully common with people, is that we all have these big dreams, and I meet people that are so confused about their life purpose and why is my life not going in the way that I want it to, and I don't feel like this is the right direction for me, and I'm just not, there's something I'm not sure about, and I'm like, well, what do you want? I don't know. How can you ever get what you want if you don't know what you want? So I'm a big believer in asking yourself what you want. And as a sexual violence survivor, if there is anything that I could have done differently to accelerate my recovery and to really help myself get to that state of awareness sooner, because I mean I handled so much of this on my own for a long time, and I did work with a therapist eventually as well, which was extremely beneficial and I really recommend to anyone. But something that I didn't do that I really would recommend, and I really believe it would have helped me to be able to open up sooner, recover faster, etc., etc., is find support in community of other survivors. And there are some great workshops around now about, you know, dancing, body movement. I think if you can find a way to embrace your sexuality through movement, and it not be about anybody else, but just being in a room full of women where you feel safe, secure, present. I think especially having other survivors with you and just exploring feeling safe in your body again, and what it feels like to embrace your body and yourself and your own sexuality again, and, you know, to just feel it freely without the fear of somebody sexualizing it or taking it, and being in an environment where you can just feel like fully safe to just let it shine. I think that would be so powerful. I really, really do. And I hear really great feedback from people who work in those fields about how powerful it is with survivors. So are you a survivor of sexual violence? If you are, leave me a comment. I would love to know anything. What has helped you with your recovery? Are you struggling right now? Is there something that you want to ask? Leave me a comment and I will get back to you. Take care. Bye.